This is the Town of Littleton Board of Health meeting for Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. It's 7 p.m. and we'll get started with our ID decision support tool based on community data and metrics. Matt Wason, good evening. I'm hoping you have something to report to us. I know we got the data from Neshoba and wanted to see what you had too.
All right, here is the latest. First, XBB 1.1.5 has been around for a month and a half or so, and it is the vast majority of cases at 95%. You could look at this and cross your fingers that if new variants don't show up, that usually means it's a longer term positive for a community, because that hopefully means that the existing one starts to spread less and less, and maybe that we get to a better place with COVID. So it's a number one variant, and there's not even a number two right now. They're all just fractions. The Littleton 2-week case counts are hovering at about 10 for the cases that get reported. So not a whole lot going on there. Most of our metrics are kind of in the green. The CDC community level went down to green. I think the worst thing, once again, is the percentage of residents who are actually up to date on vaccinations still is just below 40%. I think it went up about half a point. We'd really like to see that get higher, but I think people in their minds with spring started and summer coming eventually, that this isn't necessarily what's kind of on the forefront. But all that aside, it's still out there. COVID's still impacting places. I'm still seeing people who are reporting positive tests. So pretty please get your updated bivalent booster, and you can contribute to changing that from red to a better color. I'm going to leave influenza and RSV in here, but I'm not going to really comment on them moving forward, just because we're out of that season. So unless something really crazy happens, we shouldn't have to look at that. And then on the wastewater coming out of Boston, those numbers have come down a lot. They one's below 200 and one's about 400, but they're both at a really low level and kind of have been slipping. So that's another positive that we're seeing right now. So that's what I have for you.
Great, Jim. Do you have any news on the COVID front or infectious agents that are out there?
Nothing on the COVID front. That again, most of the towns in the district are reporting under that number where they throw an asterisk on it because it's like less than 5 kind of thing, small communities. And so nothing else really to report in that regard.
All right, great. Yeah, and anything to report? Boots on the ground.
Unchanged, other than it's always busy out there still. Unfortunately, I will say it is better than it has been, but EDs are still at the gills. So work through urgent care, work through primary care, keep yourself healthy, and avoid the hospital if at all possible, so that it's available for those who really need it.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We have a couple minutes before our next public hearing, but I don't know. Did everyone have a chance to go over the meeting minutes that Brenda's been sending over to us? I guess it's probably been about a month since she started sending them, and we haven't had a full quorum, or we haven't had a chance to review all of them. I did take a read of the October 26th today, hoping that everyone else had some time to do that as well. Brenda, I don't have a list of all of the dates.
Can you see me?
We were sent. Yes, Gino, we can see you. Brenda, could you just run down the list of dates on the meeting minutes? Thanks.
Sure. We have 10/26, August 10th, 22, 7/27, 22, 2/22, 23, and 3/8, 23.
I was going to give some feedback through email on the 10/26 one, so I don't think those are ready to vote on.
Right, right.
Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
We'll see you. Hi, Gino.
Hi, how are you?
Brendan, what was so we had August 10th, 2022, July 27th, 2022. What was the next one after that?
February 22nd, 23,
And
March
March 8th, 23.
23, and then today I sent earlier 10/26. So I realized those probably won't get till next meeting.
Yeah, I don't think everybody's had a chance to give you feedback on those yet.
Right.
But the others, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written for February 22nd, 2023, March 8th, 2023, August 10th, 2022, and July 27th, 2022.
I second it.
We have a roll call. We have a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Member Matt Wason, did you have your hand raised before the second came in?
I'm not sure if I beat it. It was just a small error on February 22nd. It has Kevin Davis listed as present and absent.
and you were absent. You
Yes.
were absent. Okay. I will withdraw my motion and make another motion to approve the minutes for August 10th, 2022, July 27th, 2022, and March 8th, 2023 as written.
Second,
The motion is second. We'll take a roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis, yes.
Dan Kane,
I'm going to have to abstain. I was not present for the August 10th meeting. Therefore, I can't really vote for that one, so I need to abstain from it since we packaged this vote. So,
okay. Gino Fratelloni
Jennifer Roy, yes.
and Matt Wason.
Similarly, I was absent for the March 8th. So
Well, I guess we'll just do them one by one then. I withdraw my motion. Sorry about that. I'll make a motion to approve the March 8th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Okay. Second.
Is that a second?
Just one.
All right. Just one roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis, yes.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Gino Fratelloni,
Jennifer Roy, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. Matt Wason, sorry,
abstain.
abstain. Okay, passes. Next, I make a motion to approve February 22nd, 2023, the meeting minutes as with the adjustment that Kevin Davis was absent for that meeting.
Second,
Second,
Roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Abstains.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Gino Fratelloni,
Jennifer Roy, yes.
Matt Wason,
that was
be
yes.
Person.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from July 27th, 2022.
Second,
Motion and a second. We'll have a roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis votes yes.
Gino Fratelloni,
Jennifer Roy, yes.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Matt Wason,
Matt Wason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. Motion passes. Finally, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 10th, 2022.
I second it. I read it.
Motion and a second. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis votes yes.
Gino Fratelloni,
Jennifer Roy, yes.
Dan
You shook
Kane,
it.
Dan Kane, abstain.
Matt Wason,
Matt Wason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. All right, great. If we could just all give Brenda any feedback on the October 26th, 2022 meeting minutes before our next meeting, that would be great. Dan Kane?
For the August 10th, you may want to revisit that affirmative vote for these minutes.
Okay.
It's showing that Kevin and I, for example, voted to allow the sieve analysis for tobacco sales violation.
For August 10th?
It does.
Okay. What's the proper procedure to undo the motion and the vote?
That I don't know. All I'm saying is I don't think we'd want to hang our hats on these minutes, unfortunately, that we just voted as accepted as the actual actions of the board on that night, since our first public hearing was for a tobacco sales violation, and the motion was made to allow a sieve analysis and a poly barrier, with me seconding, which I was not present for, and yes, basically all of us present and voting yes for that. So I'm not sure where the error occurred, but we may want to just review these minutes before. I don't know how we undo the motion or undo the action taken, but it's not accurate. So
I'll make a motion to take a second look at the August 10th, 2022 minutes and bring forth.
I'm sorry,
at
Dan,
our
what
next
do
meeting.
you, I'm not seeing, what were you calling out?
for the meeting I just pulled up, August 10th, 2022,
Yeah,
the first public hearing was just Archer's Mobile. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You have the same one?
yeah,
If you
yeah.
look down to the motion by Matt Mason, if you look at the line after that, you have a motion by Gene Fratelloni to allow a sieve analysis.
It was a copy and paste.
Oh. You're right.
Missed
As
it.
these are the official record of the actions of the board, we may want to just make sure that these are
Precise.
I'll make a motion to revisit the August 10th, 2022 minutes and readdress at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Second,
sorry.
Roll call
Yes.
vote.
All good.
Kevin Davis,
Yes.
Gino Fratelloni,
Okay, yes.
Dan Kane.
Dan Kane abstain.
See what happens when you don't attend meetings, Dan? All the minutes.
Sorry. I
Matt
feel
Wason.
bad. I didn't read them.
that way isn't yes.
What a guy.
Kevin Baker votes yes. So we'll move on to our 7:05 public hearing for 6 Spectacle Pond Road with Billis and Roy's Design Group for the variance request for the construction of a new sewage disposal system.
Have there been any changes to the drawings? Because we didn't get anything in our packet.
There was an email sent, if I may address the board. There was
Yeah,
an
please.
email sent that I forwarded to the board regarding 6 Spectacle Pond that he wanted to discuss. So I asked at the beginning of the meeting if you had time to review that email from Phyllis and Roy. It was from Seth Donahoe.
Mhm.
Can we
That was
send
on
it?
Monday. Yeah, they want to talk to the board about the new findings with the water department, correct?
Right, and they
Yeah.
they did not send an updated plan.
Great. Well, could you promote them, please?
I don't believe I got that email.
Work. Wanted them twice.
It was from Seth, March 20. No, you weren't on it.
Sent to Board
The
of
one
Health.
from the 17th.
Right. I'm well aware of the 17th.
For some reason, it won't let me promote.
Is it Chris or I don't see Seth in the audience.
I don't see Seth in the audience either.
Could you please, if you're an attendee, please raise your hand if you're here to discuss 6 Spectacle Pond Road? Jim, I'm sorry, did you have a comment?
I was gonna say, maybe Chris also works at Dillis and Roy. So,
And I tried to promote Chris, and for some reason, it's not allowing me to do so.
Just, yeah.
Oh, here he comes. Hi, Chris, can you hear us?
I think that's Chris from Metawanaki.
Oh, okay.
I'm here for the
So-
next session. That's right.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, I will make a motion to continue the public hearing for 6 Spectacle Pond Road.
Second,
Motion in a second, roll call vote, Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis, yes.
Gino Fratelloni,
yes.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Matt Wason,
Matt Wason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. That was quicker than I thought it would be. All right, so moving on to our screen here, 7:15 public hearing for 14 Douglas Road. We have Nagurjan Kasaraneni to discuss deed restriction for additional living space.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hi, Nag. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, this is Nagajan Kasuneni. I'm representing 14 Douglas Road, for the basement permit actually application.
Okay, well, you did go ahead and send in the information that we requested for the packet, both the floor plan of the proposed finished basement, as well as the current as-built plans for the existing home.
Yeah.
Jim, can you give us a little bit of can you give us a comment on this, please?
So when I had reviewed the plans before, I had pulled up the old house plans because they're still up on the town's website there. And my recollection were there were 9 rooms, 4 bedrooms in the main house. And then the proposal was to add another room. And the previous plan actually had a playroom and an office in the basement. And that is the reason why I asked him to come talk to the board. Generally, 1 room over, the board has been okay with deed restriction. So.
And you counted 8 rooms on the as-built, or not 9 rooms on the as-built?
Yeah, 9. I think 5 on the first floor, 4 bedrooms on the second floor. And the basement, the previous plan was 2 rooms, playroom and an office. Now it looks like 1 big room if I saw the plans correctly.
It does.
Yeah.
All right. Any comments from board members here? We'll start with Kevin Davis.
Could you defer? I'm still
Sure.
ingesting.
Matt Wason. Comments
I
on
have
this?
no questions.
Dan Kane?
No questions.
Gino Fratelloni?
No question.
I don't have any questions. I'll make the comment that it looks like you took down the wall that was separating the 2 new proposed rooms. And
Right.
it looks like now you have 1 large finished space. Do you by chance know the finished square footage for this new room?
It should be, if I'm, again, based on my calculations, it should be around 1,300 square feet, 13 to 14 maybe. That's what I'm speculating. I may be wrong, but it's around that. That's what I'm thinking.
1,300 to 1,250,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Kevin Davis, any comments, questions?
What's the size door that you have going into your bathroom in the basement there?
The bathroom in the basement, it should be, again, that's a good question, but like it's a normal regular size door. That's nothing like a big or it's a just regular door.
So a 30-inch door. So a 30-inch door.
Yeah, that's what I think. So yeah, I can quickly measure and tell you, but it's a regular door. That's what I can know.
So a 30-inch door. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you've got 1 feet 6 inches, which is 18 inches in that hallway where the door is swinging open. So that's not a standard door then.
Okay.
I don't think this is exactly the scale.
Yeah, the scale is like
Well, even if it's not to scale, there's measurements on the plans. So the measurement saying it's a 1.5 foot wide hallway, which seems narrow.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's I don't know if that's allowed actually, but I'm not sure.
As a first responder in town, I'm hoping I don't need to try to get somebody through a 1.5 foot hallway out of a bathroom in a basement. Just saying.
yeah. No, I think that's just a kind of like a rough estimate. We can move like the bathroom to adjust that, so I can do that. So yeah.
Kevin Davis, any other questions?
I don't. This is more of a comment. I'm really sorry, but I don't see this being ready yet. That's just my general comment.
I mean, it's not our job to, talk about the building plans. Our job is to consider a deed restriction based on room count.
Okay. Your viewpoint is correct, sir. So then the deed restriction would be for no additional, so this would be for the only one additional room in the basement, and that would be the deed restriction that we're putting in. No other rooms in the basement.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so it'll be restricted to a four bedroom home.
Right. And no additional rooms added to the house.
No.
Right? Is that's what we're voting on?
Correct. Well, there hasn't been a motion made. But-
I'm just clarifying. That's the going in that the petitioner is asking for, is that they want a deed restriction.
That's
to
the
say
reality, right? Yeah, that's what he's asking for. Yep.
4-bedroom house and no additional living space added to the house after this in the basement. So he's got his 9 rooms plus 1 and he's done.
Well, yeah, I mean, unless they want to increase the size of the septic system or.
Right. Agreed. Okay.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the plans as drawn here with a deed restriction for a 4-bedroom house.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis votes no.
Gino Fratelloni,
Gina Farrow, yes.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Matt Wason,
Mason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. Thanks, Nag.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, we have our 7:20. Well, we have a minute. That's good. I'm going to look something up real quick.
Did we get any information for the Manawati in the packet?
If I can address the board, please. There was no updated plan. There was an email sent to the Board of Health with an email from Ted Doucette saying that they will continue this due to
Peter Scott's in the hospital. He's not feeling well, is he?
Yes, so I did forward that email to the board, and that they would not be here for that they would like to continue.
All right, it's 7:25. We will open the public hearing for 107 Mattawamkeag, Ted Doucette Engineering for a variance request for an upgrade approval. Town council is not in attendance to give an opinion, but I will make a motion to continue the hearing to our next meeting.
Second,
Motion in a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis votes yes.
Gina Fratelloni,
Gina Furlong, yes.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
and Matt Wason.
No, isn't yes.
Kevin Baker votes yes.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I never received that email asking for a continuance.
You know, I didn't get that
Neither
email
did I.
either. I got a phone call that someone told me that Peter Scott was in the hospital. I hope he gets well soon. I did see some email from Doucette.
I didn't get anything.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know they were continuing. Brenda, just check your outbox. Maybe it didn't go out all the way or something.
It was addressed to just Baker and myself.
Oh, was that it? Okay. So we can move on to our 7. Oh, yeah, 7:35. Well, if you take a look at the packet, we can work on some administrative matters. Take a look at the packet. There has been a request to nominate Phyllis Tower as the inspector of animals. And it is our job to nominate Phyllis. Brenda, do you know how long she's been in that position? Actually, Jim would probably know how long Phyllis has been.
She's been in there a number of years. I know you're part of I believe, the regional group with Foxborough, and I think it's Stowe. So she's been in there a number of years. She has a real nice job, both as animal control officer and animal inspector. And that whole process is a little weird in that the boards of health nominate somebody and then the state appoints. So this letter comes out this time of year each year to make that appointment. And again, the animal inspector is more about animal health in the community, inspecting barns and barns than the animal control officer. So.
And was there an issue with something having to do with POs that they were requesting services from a certain veterinarian in town? Services were performed, but there was never an approved PO from Littleton town offices to actually have that service performed.
So I think it sometimes gets confused. One of the roles that Phyllis has as animal control officer, and may even have it as the animal inspector, is rabies specimens being submitted to the state for investigation. And so often depending what the animal is, it goes to the vet to be euthanized so that it can be then shipped down to the state for testing. And so I think it was trying to figure out whose account it was supposed to be coming out of, and nobody quite knew it was hanging out there. So I think that's been resolved. I know I had a meeting with Ed and Ryan Farrar from the TA to kind of figure out where those two go.
Okay. Well, I don't know Phyllis, but if Jim tells us she's doing a great job, and I'll go with that. So I'll make a motion to nominate Phyllis Tower. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
I think it'd be kind of good to have Phyllis come in and say hi to the board.
I did ask Phyllis to come and say hi to us, but she had a prior engagement tonight.
Okay.
And there seems to be a deadline on this nomination so that it can go to the state and run through their process too. And I think that deadline is it April
April
1st?
April
Yeah, April
1st,
1st. So I hear you. I did ask her to come. She was unavailable. But
Fair
maybe
enough.
she can come and say hi to us anyway after.
That would be good.
That would be nice as a meet and greet and a small report. Either way, we can't vote on anything because we don't have this as a public hearing on our agenda for tonight.
It's under administrative matters.
Yeah.
I think we can just all, I think we can just, nominate her. I don't know that we have to vote on it.
I don't know if that's quite right.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's fine.
So that gives 9 days to have this done, signed, notarized, and in the state's hands by April 1.
I mean,
As the chair, I think go ahead and nominate Phyllis, maybe. So maybe Brenda and I will work that out and sign all the
The letter only
necessary
has
docs.
one name on it, and it's yours. So I
Yeah.
think that is within your realm of responsibility, Mr. Chairman.
That's fine. I just want to be fully transparent and let all you guys know what's going on and put it on public record. So
I
there's no
appreciate it.
questions. So great. Brenda will take care of that tomorrow. That'll be great. Jim, discussion of the Title V waiver process.
Just okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I wasn't looking. Did you have something else?
Yeah, the email that's on there is not right. You might want to correct that. R. Ferreira.
Okay.
For you.
Email on the
Nominating form.
nominating form. Got it.
That's all. That's it. I'm good.
Jim, can you tell us a little bit about the Title V waiver process for the folks connecting to sewer?
Sure. So in Title V, there's a section on what to do with the prospect where you have sewer coming in and people who are transferring their properties. They don't necessarily want to have them have to put in a Title V a new system. So they've created this waiver process as long as you've signed a facilities plan to actually run sewer, and you can allow up to 5 years for that sewer to be installed. So I've already gotten one request that you haven't signed a contract yet. I guess it's imminent in talking with Corey Godfrey. But people are calling asking about getting a waiver to have to replace their septic system. And so what I think I provided was what Lunenburg had done as far as a waiver. They had a simple application and then a document gets recorded on the deed for the property. The idea is that and what one would recommend is that you would want to know what the condition of the system is before you granted a waiver. Even if it's in failure, you may grant the waiver and state do X, Y, and Z to maintain it in the time between them transferring the property and sewer being connected. But doing the Title V inspection as part of the process at least gives you some idea about the condition of the system and allows you to make those kind of conditions. And so I just wanted to try to get you a process so that you can consider it. So by the time you're signing a contract for your sewer, that you could have a sewer waiver process in place. So there were two documents. One was a simple application. The second was the document that Lunenburg and some of the other communities had used to actually get recorded on the property for the deeds. Some towns, I think when Lunenburg started, they actually did the recording themselves, so they would end up having the people pay, provide the board with a recording fee, make sure the document actually get recorded on the property, because sometimes people forget to do this in the heat of the transfer. And so it was one way to make sure that that waiver was recorded on the property, so it showed up there when the property transferred. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. Again,
Well, I can see Kevin Davis's face that he didn't get the document, and I just forwarded it to everyone. I guess I was assuming it was getting forwarded to the whole board. I apologize. Brenda, in the future, when Jim sends something, just send it to everybody. That'd be great. It's a very simple form and a one pager, and everybody on the board can take a read of it. And it seems like that'll make, it'll eliminate a lot of different requests coming in for such a thing. So if we have a form and we can apply that to all the people that are on septics planning to tie into town sewer, we can start to make note of that if they want to complete this form.
I was going to say, kind of the extreme example. I remember one time up in Ashburnham, again, they were sewering the center of their town. They had somebody who had a miserably failing system. Sewer is probably going to be 2 or 3 years away. So one of the solutions the board had when they allowed a waiver to go through is to have them put a tight tank in the front yard until sewer came by. So not replace the whole system, but they certainly weren't going to allow the current system just to kind of bleed all over and
Go on.
So, so again, it allows you, once you know the condition of the system, kind of put some kind of a agreement in place as part of that waiver.
Does anybody have any questions?
I think we should have a couple examples of the waiver agreement. I think we should have one where we have somebody in failing and we're going to say, hey, we're going to put that tank in place. And this is what it looks like, kind of have the language already there. And the other one, whatever other alternatives we may have, it might be a good thing to have as examples. Yeah. And then how long would this go for? Would this go for until the sewer's put in place? So in other words, if it's 20 years, like they don't get the sewer hooked up to their house for 20 years, they have this waiver in place, or is there a limit to how long it can go?
The waiver kind of binds them to tie into sewer as soon as it's available.
Okay.
But at least it would have to be
time frame
anticipated.
on that?
So in Title V, it talks to granting waivers up to 5 years. And again, that's more to accommodate a construction schedule, I think, than to say, hey, if somebody's got a miserably failing system and you've put a waiver on it, my thought as soon as, and again, this is a process you can work out with the sewer department, saying maybe as properties connect, they send you a list of those that, let me rephrase that, as they put the line in and properties can connect, maybe they send you a report saying, hey, this street has sewer now, so all of these addresses could connect. And that would be a way for you to say, all right, we've granted waivers on these 5 properties, send a letter out to them saying you need to connect to the sewer line.
All right, so maybe what we'll do is we can add this and the documentation to our packet for our next meeting, and then discuss some language if we want to come up with a version for a system that's in very bad failure, and we want to take some action to have them correct that while they wait, i.e. adding a tight tank in, and maybe maybe add some, if the system is, call it in failure, like if the leach field is or Jim, what would a scenario be where the system's in failure but it's not in horrible failure that they can't wait, that waiting a year is going to be detrimental? What does that look like?
So I guess if you wanted to be the most kind of generous with this, I mean, what you're trying to do is minimize the public health situation. So
Right.
if somebody can maintain the system, let's say it's surcharged, but somebody can maintain it, pump it, use less water, whatever the case may be, and it doesn't discharge to the surface of the ground, that may be acceptable. The one in Ashburnham, I think, had an old rock cesspool that was bubbling up over the cesspool and running into a nearby brook. So the board just wasn't having any of that. I mean, in the center of town, depending where you are in the center of town, the high water table may be the cause of failure. And so,
Right.
again, not an imminent public health hazard, but maybe it's pump annually or so. Again, what you're looking for, what can we do to kind of mitigate a public health issue while we wait for the property to be connected to sewer?
Okay.
And
Well,
so, as
this
opposed to specifying something specific, maybe you leave a space in the document for language on something specific you might want to add based on the property.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Jim, I haven't read through the whole thing. Do you know, is it transferable in case of a sale?
I believe it is. I haven't read through it all again myself, but I think I'd have to look at it. I'd be lying if I said I knew.
It'd be interesting to know what the finance people thought about that.
Well, one of the nice things, if the board, as part of the process, requires a Title V, you'd have the Title V, which meets the state regulations for
Okay.
transfer. But you're right. If you have a failing Title V, hopefully this this waiver document from the board can go along with that Title V to kind of satisfy a finding. I don't know.
Right.
I don't remember if we ever had any pushback in Lunenburg or Ashburnham when they were doing these.
Well, it reminds me that months ago we were talking about the new sewer hookups and how the town had permitted people to opt out, which was contrary to the Title V guidelines for availability to the sewer lines. And so that's part of why I'm wondering about that is I just don't want to get down in some situation where I get a waiver, I sell the property, and the subsequent owner, I don't know, just something else comes up and they don't want to put the sewer in. You have to make sure that they are understanding of that. So if they say, I reject the sewer connection, then they have to immediately remedy the system.
Well, it's kind of funny because it says right in the first there after the whereas clause, there's a therefore the Board of Health waives the requirements of the owner upgraded private sewage system on property, and said waiver shall be transferable and property shall be deemed subject to it for the duration of the waiver, all subject to conditions set forth below. So it has that language that's in there. I think that's addressing the concern. However, my thing is that once to pile on to Matt a little bit, once the waiver expires, then I think we need to have that linkage in our OpenGov, which is the next thing that we're talking about, to say, hey, we have this thing expiring. You need to go have a meeting to address this in the next 5 years or whatever it is, right? So that way we're not losing the 50,000 waivers that we have coming in. I know we're kind of getting 50,000 waivers, but
Yeah, but it's something that's going to need to be tracked.
we're creating, as in the software world, it's called technical debt.
Technical debt.
Technical debt. We're creating something that's going to need future remedy.
Yeah. Got it. Interesting. All right. So Brenda, we'll add this to our next agenda. And we'll put everything in the packet and we'll add it as a public hearing. That'd be great. Thanks for bringing this to our attention, Jim.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
So
Sorry. One go back. Apologies, sir, if I may.
please.
So if the town's allowing people to not hook up the sewer and they have a waiver, that's interesting.
So I think if I could, Kevin, it's more, you're allowing them not to have to replace their Title V septic system until they connect to sewer. So it would be wasteful for them to put a Title V system in if sewer's going to be there.
No, I
Yeah.
agree 1,000,000%. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that someone says, I don't want to connect to town sewer, but I'm getting a waiver.
So do you already have a list of those opt-outs ahead of time?
That would be the fun part.
Well, because I
No,
thought
they have
last year that went around, or was it the end of last year, they had to kind of opt in or out?
I haven't seen the list. I think there was a deadline in July for them to make a decision. I haven't seen the property list, who actually opted out, but we
And
can
that's
ask Corey probably has that. That's a sewer department thing.
and that's true. Maybe you wouldn't give a waiver to somebody who is on an opt-out.
Yeah, the language in the waiver says as you will connect as soon as available, period.
And it might be fun to put something in there that if you are on the opt-out list, that by signing this waiver, it automatically removes you from said opt-out list.
Right.
Or any chance to enter into opt-out list.
Mhm.
Okay. Sorry. I'm done now. My apologies, sir.
So signing the waiver nullifies the opt-out.
So
The
moved.
waivers, the waiver is future looking, as I don't have the sewer yet and it's coming to me. I think it's completely independent from an opt-out situation. In an opt-out situation, this is the concern from last fall or winter when it came up, is that it sounded like residents were going to be allowed to opt out permanently.
Right.
Whereas Title V, I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but Title V says if you have a failing system and sewer is available, you don't get to replace the system.
And that was, that's the concern I brought up last year. And however legislatively the district was set up, it doesn't sound like that was considered. So I don't know if that ever got resolved, because that would be
I don't think it did. We need kind of a follow-up request to see where that landed.
Because I think when we last had it, it went back because had already gone through the legislature. It had gone through town bylaw legislation approval. So it had already gone way beyond town scope of change. And it was back in the hands of the select board, water, and town council to find a resolution and basically start the whole process, the legislative process again, to address that oversight or potential gap in clarity that was there. And I have not seen anything come back.
Yeah, well, while I'm speaking to Corey about the opt-out list, maybe we'll have him back and see, sort of give us an update on the status of where they are with that. That'd be helpful. All right. So I just want to jump back to our 7:35 public hearing that we were hoping to have Ted Doucette on, just for the mere fact that when we were discussing local regulations a while back, Ted was very helpful with his knowledge of Title V and the language to be used for regulations. And I think tonight's hearing regarding 614 Douglas Road and the finishing of that 1,300 square foot basement and calling it one room, really is the catalyst that we need to keep in mind as we develop another local regulation, or maybe even just reinstate the past local regulation limiting or calling out a certain room size, of which when it gets to a certain size, it's counted as more than one room. I don't know what the board's appetite is on this, but I wanted to sort of open that up for discussion as a part of our 7:35 public hearing. Jim, I don't know, you mentioned that there was, Dan Kane, please go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask that certainly Jim, we've talked about in the past that, with so many homes, mine included, having a relatively open floor plan that, you don't have old school standard 36-inch doors. It's easy to identify a room that, you kind of look at, is there a clear delineation of purpose? I walk in my back door and I'm walking through one room, but I've gone through a mudroom, a kitchen, a dining, breakfast eating area, and then a family room, and then I hit the back wall. So have I really gone through one room? Have I gone through 3 or 4 rooms? So, I think we've looked at consistently from a standard living area size of going, are there defined purposes? And that would generate a room count that way. And I think that's, we've been pretty consistent. I admit, I think as we've looked at basements, we haven't quite looked at them quite the same way. I'm not sure if we should look at them quite the same way. I'll admit that, it's past, but looking at the one we just looked at of 1,300 square foot, I don't remember if it was a walkout basement or not, but you've got a full bath and a 1,300 square foot space that might be one room, but that also could be twice the size of my first studio apartment. So it all is kind of relative, that's probably 2.5 times the size of my first studio apartment. So, I think that's sensitive. If we had that on as a first floor, if we were walking in off of our front lawn into that house and we had a 1,300 square foot room, I can't imagine many of us would look at that space with breakout space of, nope, this is for this, and this is a bar, gym area. If we just change those names from TV space, gym space, and made it family room, dining room, we would easily go, nope, that's 2 or 3 or 4 rooms in that 1,300 square foot if it was 10 feet higher in the ground. I think that's a hard one to be consistently say on the ground floor, it's 5 rooms. In a basement, it's 1. I'm not sure what's right or wrong. I'm not sure the best way to approach it. I just don't know, but I think I could see someone easily having an argument going, why is it, if you said no to me, why is it 5 rooms when it's upstairs and it's 1 room when it's downstairs, or it's 2 rooms when it's downstairs, but it's only, this basement's this and this basement. It's hard being consistent. I know we've talked in the past of something like a 700 foot area as being, if you have a space larger than, it kind of would count as 2 rooms. And I'm not sure if that came from anything hard and fast or from someone else's model regulation. I just can't remember, but I know I've heard that number someplace.
I'd also
700? 700, I think, was maybe a number that was just thrown out there. I can give you an idea of the local regulations in Littleton in 2007. Regulation number 13, the definition of a bedroom, which was repealed in 2009, called out specifically the letter B. There's many bullet points here, but any room other than a kitchen, dining room, or living room in excess of 300 square feet that meets the definition of a bedroom shall be considered 2 rooms.
Any room in excess of 300 square feet.
Any room other than a kitchen, dining room, or living room in excess of 300 square feet that meets the definition of a bedroom shall be considered 2 rooms.
That does or does not meet the definition. It should be does not meet the definition.
That meets the definition of a bedroom. So the definition of a bedroom, which they call out in other bullet points here, is any room enclosed or enclosed addition with at least 70 square feet of floor area, a window other than a kitchen, dining room, living room, bathroom, or hallway space, or any room that meets the definition of a bedroom in Title V. Jim, do they still have that definition of a bedroom in Title V?
Sure, any room that's at least 70 square feet, has the right floor to ceiling height, electrical outlet, a window, and privacy.
Does it also include a closet?
No.
No.
That's more of a real estate definition for bedrooms, yeah.
Got it.
Because for $50 at IKEA, I can put a closet almost any place.
Right.
Got it. Yeah, because my house was built in 2002 under those repealed laws, and my septic system is a 6-bedroom or 7-bedroom septic system. So I can have lots and lots of rooms.
So there was a set of regulations before 2007, I believe that, and I think we talked about this briefly, Kevin, that actually was pretty draconian when it came to bedrooms. I think it said any house that had 7 rooms was a 3-bedroom. Any house that had 8 rooms had 4 bedrooms. And that's how there's a handful of subdivisions, I should say, where every house is designed for 6 bedrooms, which is great when someone wants to finish a basement. It's like, yeah, you got all the space, it's all the space in the world. So, yeah.
Yeah, what I'll do is I have this spreadsheet that I don't know when it was created, but I have a copy of it. I'm going to send it around to the board. Just take a look at Regulation 13 and the history of it. what it was prior to 2007 and then 2007 to today.
Could we also ask town council to see if there are any case law definitions of room sizes and things like that that may have been argued to give us a little more backstop, maybe in some of our decision-making process? That would be something I would think very easy for someone to go look up in a law library and figure that out.
Okay.
Just an idea.
I'll forward the spreadsheet to everyone right now. If you could just please take a look at regulation 13. Sorry for the delay. Okay. So we can, let's revisit this, Brenda, on our next agenda. Language regarding regulation 13. And so we'll go bounce to our 7:45 public hearing now, the establishment of the Littleton Department of Health with the health director job description and next steps. And Matt Wason, I'm going to ask you to lead this one, if that's all right with you.
I was trying to jump back to the last topic real quick. I want to say,
Oh,
I really like what Dan was saying. I'm kind of in the same mindset of, is the basement different? Is it not? And I agree. I'm wondering if we kind of are able to say, I like the 300 square foot quantity to be a good guide. I like the functional space concept. I think maybe you could have a language that's kind of an and or there. And then maybe the rules should be different for that area of a basement that doesn't have the walkout access. Because we've seen the ones that have the walkout access where there's a wet bar and a bathroom and a room, and all of a sudden you're feeling like it's much more of a livable space. Whereas the one from today, I feel it was, I agree, I didn't like the 1,300 square foot. I kind of want that number to be different, but maybe not 300 for that enclosed basement where, yeah, most of us want a big open area that's a play area or a gym or something like that. So
yeah,
thank
room
you
for
for
the Murphy
voicing
bed to
that,
pull
Dan.
out. Yeah.
I'm right
Sure.
on the same line as you. But I think that's to Kevin Davis's point. No, we don't I don't think the deed restriction says, and thou shalt never ever make another living space again. But when you finish the entire basement like that, who's to say they can't come up and put, half walls or, freestanding walls and kind of effectively make a different living space down there. So I think that's kind of the balance, because it's not that we don't want people to make rooms in their basement so that their house is more functional. It's that we don't want it to appear that they're creating living space that's going to impact their system. So where's the balance that's between that? So yes, I look forward to talking about it more. On another note, I had to check, Jim, since you said that the Title V definition of a bedroom is 70 square foot.
Yes.
So if you recall, the Cooper Farm buildings were 3-bedroom, and they claimed that their office, they had a bonus room that was within a certain dimension by 2 inches. So therefore it didn't qualify, but it is 110 square foot room without a closet, which would by Title V count as a bedroom.
Right.
Clean.
It could. And so the rest of that definition says in houses that have more than 8 rooms, the way you determine the number of bedrooms is to add up all the rooms in the house, divide by 2, and round down. So technically, in a 3-bedroom house, you could have up to 8 rooms and not have done anything in conflict with the code, as long as there are only 3 bedrooms listed. And that's why people look at it kind of strange, but I say to them, you need to label these things, because I want to put it in the file, because when somebody else comes in, I'm going to say, no, this is what the board reviewed and approved. And this is what.
You could have 7 rooms by your math, not 8. Like it would be 7 divided by 2 round down, right?
Well, so that's kind of that's a little disconnect in the code. The definition says, so the definition, so the minimum system size for a house is 3 bedrooms. And so when you're looking at the definition, it says in houses that have more than 8 rooms, the way you determine the number of bedrooms is to add up all the rooms in the house, divide by 2, and round down. So we've kind of taken the position that you got to have a minimum of the 3-bedroom system. They define what happens over 8. All right, 3 and 8 seem to kind of be the squishy kind of space that we've accepted as.
The 3-bedroom with 8 does not need a deed restriction to be a 3-bedroom house because
Yep.
those are the minimum bars. It's when you then go up above that, then the math starts to come into play.
That's kind of, yeah, that's how we've looked at that.
Got it.
Thank you.
Matt, did we address all your questions? on
Yes,
that?
thank you. So you want me to give an update on the establishment of the Littleton Department of Health?
Yes, please.
Okay, so lots of steps have occurred. We were all there at the joint meeting a couple of weeks ago. In that meeting, they wanted to continue the discussion at a future meeting about our budget and about the requests. Between those two meetings, a few folks went and met with Jim to ask for clarification on how the contract would work with Neshoba if we signed another 2 years. And Jim, you can correct me if anything's wrong here, but in brief, it was Littleton could sign a 2-year extension, but within that have the flexibility that if and when we hire Department of Health staff and they start doing work for the town, that we would have to kind of balance that with Neshoba, and whatever work we did, the permit fees would be based upon our fee schedule and would come to us. And anything that was performed by anybody from Neshoba would continue to go to Neshoba.
Let me just kind of, the process. So I'm not sure the Neshoba board would grant an extension. What you'd be doing is joining as a member again at a town meeting. And then you can withdraw in a year, and then the membership ends a year later. So that's where the 2 years come from. But the rest of the stuff he said, Anthony asked me to a meeting, didn't know who was going to be at the meeting, so I did, and they asked about that, and I suggested that those things could certainly be worked out.
A plan was kind of developed to say, well, it would be, I think there was concern from the select board and FinCom, whether appropriate or not from where that concern comes from, that switching kind of almost cold turkey from Neshoba operating through June 30th to having a director or somebody else in place soon enough to then pick up the reins and have a fully functioning Department of Health very quickly. I think there was concern about that. So they felt more comfortable saying, well, let's renew with Neshoba, have that 2 years of coverage, and then in parallel build this department, understanding that the financial impact of that is much greater, obviously, because if you're not taking any fees in, but you're starting to pay salaries, then we're going to be in the red for a length of time. So that, I would say that plan was created without specific input from this board. We did not discuss that. That was not something that came up at the joint meeting. And while I know there were some individual conversations between some individuals on this board and other boards, what was then presented at the second meeting, which was not a joint meeting, but Dan Kane and I were in attendance, was this plan was proposed to say, vote to renew with Neshoba and then approve the salary for the director of health position, which I personally thought was not unreasonable. I wanted to get that person in. A lot of the ideas that have come up, like working with other towns or getting grant money or creating a sharing of services, all of those things really need a person, an employee, to help drive. And I think that director is the right person for that. But when it came to that meeting, unfortunately, Dan and I were not recognized. I was recognized one time to provide some input early in the meeting, but those two committees did not recognize us for the rest of the meeting and were not able to provide some clarification. And so without our input, they voted to approve that a $150,000 budget line item that was kind of penciled in for the director of health salary and benefits position would instead be split, and part of it carved out to go to another director position that they have posted and are having trouble filling, and that we would be left with approximately $120,000. Again, salary and benefits. So that, based upon the typical benefit calculation, works out to a salary that's just under $95,000 a year. And at the same time, it was not recognized that we had a public health nurse position posted, funded, approved. That has disappeared for the next year, as well as the public health coordinator role that we had trouble filling anyways, and we wanted to replace and do with a director instead. That is also gone. So it leaves us, I think, in a difficult situation where I don't know if we can hire the person that we need to hire. And the next steps, frankly, are this was taken out of our hands. That's what the budget says. And our next steps are to still try to get the director of health, the health director job description approved. So that has to go to the personnel advisory committee next. That's the understanding that we have now. And there have been some emails about modifying that job description. Some of it is and keep in mind, this board already voted and approved that job description, and they have come back and made some changes. Most of them are grammatical. I have to review. I just got an update today of the job description. I think a lot of it's just grammatical, the wording and the way the language likes to use for the Littleton job descriptions template, which is fine. But there is some discussion between the PAC and us about the education and experience requirements of the position. So, Kevin, I don't know how you want to take it next. This is not a public hearing, is it?
No.
Oh, it is.
Oh, actually, yes, it is. It is actually.
It is, but I don't have a job description, and we don't have anything in the packet to vote on anyways.
Right.
I'd really hope that we could kind of just streamline it and be able to say, oh, hey, let's just vote to approve the grammatical changes that the PAC wanted to put in there because that makes sense. It wasn't changing the content, but now the content has changed. And I'm worried that means we have to now bump it out to our next meeting in 2 weeks to actually vote and approve any updates to the job description. But I'm not sure exactly how this works. I'm not in favor.
Yeah, I mean,
of
I think if you're able to just maybe share your screen quickly, we could take a look at it. I feel like, we could, since the PAC, is working on our behalf to expedite the grading of this position. Maybe we can do our best to expedite the approval of something we can send back to them so that they can keep doing their job and not have to wait 2 weeks. Are you comfortable sharing that on your screen? Or
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay.
So I asked for a track changes version so we could kind of see what the changes were, but I just have 2 documents that you have to compare side by side.
If you have Word, you can do a combine and put the track changes in between the 2 things and show us.
Yeah, I just haven't done that, so I don't have it ready for this
Okay.
meeting. Yes. And then I have to save them all.
May I add something to the discussion?
Please.
So I had a side discussion with one of the selectmen or select members, sorry. And it was that board member's intent that split not go that way. Yeah. I'm really kind of disappointed with the direction the town's going with this, to shift money around to fill a position that they're having problems with, that then we know we're going to have problems trying to find, not liking this.
My thought is that, we still have to get this position graded. it may come back and fit within the budget. It may be higher than the budget will allow, and that gives us case to go back to the select board and, FinCom and get a higher amount. And another part of me says that, well, yeah, we have our own department here. What's to say we can't supplement a salary with, an increase in fees and revenue, which would almost be reflective of how performance, and maybe a motivating factor. I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing is, I'd like to call out also is that meeting, and I understand, Jim, you were kind of thrown in the middle of that meeting, so I'm not pointing fingers, but the fact that no one on this board was included in that meeting for discussion on an item that's solely ours is not cool. Not cool at all.
Yeah, I think it's there is a transparency issue in town hall. I don't think it's anything that any of us on this Zoom meeting are going to solve.
Agreed. I just want to call it out. And
Yeah,
say that
no, I get that.
That's an unacceptable behavior.
I let my feelings be known to the town administrator that wasn't really the right way to go about doing things.
Cool.
Did they have a response to that?
It was a very weak response. It was, I didn't know where you were. And I would have been there in 10 minutes if he called me, type of thing. He was able to get a couple select board members in there at the drop of a dime. So why not grab a couple local? We're all here. So it was weak. It was ask for forgiveness later kind of a thing.
I mean, we don't have a Zoom license whatsoever that we could have, even Zoomed in people to have this meeting. I just don't see how this could play out in anyone's favor other than to,
There's only one reason why we weren't invited.
I'm kind of confused. No. Yeah,
Any luck with those?
Let me show this to you real quick.
Thanks.
Probably gonna be small.
Probably.
See if I can do.
Oh no, I just have to get it bigger. I have a freakishly large monitor, so just give me a minute.
So the left is our approved document, and everything bold is something that changed into the right side, which is what came back in the PAC. So right at the top, this hasn't come up in the conversation. I don't know why the job title changed from health director to director of public health. But I would say it should be health director because that's what the vast majority of towns around here use. There are a couple directors of public health out there, but from what I've seen, if the title's used, it's almost always health director. And then I think you see kind of our second paragraph here basically just kind of got taken out on the left side, and that's fine. I think Kevin and I, when we were composing this, I felt that as a job description, while it meets the town template and helps us, compare apples to apples and such like that, I think as a job description for a potential candidate, it's not a very engaging format. And so I think we were trying to kind of add a little life to the top of it so that somebody reading this could kind of start to drive up a little excitement. Because I think the template just forces it to be pretty dry. But as you can see, a lot of the changes are just where we said the director, and they want to change it to develops. They just want to start a sentence with the verb a lot.
Yeah,
So go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Kevin.
So I was just going to make a comment on the first two paragraphs. Just having the semicolon there, it makes no And yeah, I don't actually like the semicolon. If they want to add, they should like rewrite that sentence completely and format it appropriately for English, because you, yeah,
Yeah, I think the one on the left is more grammatically correct, to be honest with you.
yes.
I mean, as I said, when we were writing this, like I struggled with the fact that just traditionally the template used by the town is verb at the start of the sentence. That's why in the supervision scope, the first sentence says the health director starts, but they wanted to say, no, the subject is only used once, and then subsequent sentences just start with the verb and start with the verb and start with the verb.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't really care with that about that for our purposes of this job description. I agree with you, Kevin Davis, that I would give feedback to HR that says maybe work on the templating a little bit over time. But that's not what I would really get hung up on. But I haven't gone through line by line. So the main two that caught me that I'm worried about are the title of the position and then the experience. So, and then confusingly, these two sections start with the director. This one says the director, this one says the director or public health. So I'm not sure why that's changed. And then the third one does not start with the director.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm struggling with the changes, because I don't think this is the stuff that should be hanging up our classification.
Right.
And if it's grammatical. So I agree, some of the language cleanup is nice. It makes it a little smoother. But if I could get down to essential functions. Okay, that's just, they wanted to reword this maintains bullet point here. I'm not sure why. Because this bold sentence here is a specific task that we need this director to do.
And it's gone.
Well, it says, I don't know if it's asking us to reword it, but I didn't have this copy until today or yesterday afternoon. So I mean, that's actually a large role. That's an important thing that we need this job to do. So the fact that it just vanished is not okay. And then I think language changes, like we said, educates, informs, and empowers means a lot more than notify. So I don't see this person as just somebody who sends a memo to community, staff, and elected officials about public health. I see them as somebody who's responsible for the education, the information, and equipping those groups to actually be better about health themselves. So,
Yeah, advocates.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
change. Yeah, I actually like Dan's comment there, from empowers to advocate, maybe, or But
Definitely
still-
a more action verb than notify. I agree. Notify is not really what we need. You know,
I could have a health agent notify, but it's this higher level.
I mean, I have to be honest with you. I liked it the way that we had wrote it. I liked it the way we approved it. I think that, if there's some minor grammatical errors, they should certainly be, tended to make sure we look the way we need to look out there when we put this job description out there. But I don't think the words really need any changing, because it's what we would like our health director to do.
And like I said, if it's a template thing for the town and they really want us to start the sentence with a verb, fine. I can go delete the subject and start it with a verb and have it match the template. But it's when the content starts to change, and that's where I was starting to get concerned. And so then here's our requirements say master's degree in relevant field and 7 years of experience of at least, we said at least 4 must be in supervisory. And that was changed despite I sent an explanation as to why we felt that level of experience was required. It is changed to master's degree and up to 5 years of directly related experience. So I personally am not used to seeing up to a quantity for experience requirements, because I would read that as saying I could have a master's degree and 0 years of experience, because that's below 5.
That's a less than or equal to. That's exactly what and up to. That's less than or equal to.
And
That's
the supervisory was kind of just buried in there. And so personally, there was some commentary about writing a job description for today versus 10 years from now. And I understand that. And the goal is to write it for today. And because I talked about the position would eventually have more direct reports as designed. But the response was, well, let's write it for today. And I would say, because we're starting a brand new department, frankly, I almost feel 7 years is the bare minimum. And I would have liked to say 10, but I also want to make sure we cast a good net and get good candidates, because for me, it's never as black and white as what the print is on this piece of paper. It's about finding the right person who has that. And that's why you put in the phrase like, or an equivalent combination of experience and education. I don't care if you have a master's degree, if you've been doing this for 30 years, that might be great. Or you could be somebody with a master's degree in 7 years who just doesn't fit with us. So this, I want to ask the group about this piece, because I've gotten some pushback that this version on the right is what it really should be. And I think that's a dramatic difference. And I would like to get input from my fellow members.
Dan Kane, comments?
I was going to say, is that coming from HR? Is that coming from administration, or is that coming from personal advisory committee? This is how it should be. I'm just kind of curious. I guess I'm trying to figure out what the mindset is, because I certainly look at masters and up to 5 years. So I have a master's in 20 years. Theoretically, I'm not qualified.
You're out.
Correct.
You're out.
Because my required qualifications are masters and up to 5 years experience. So at 20 years, I no longer meet that expectation. Now, obviously, that is not what is meant by this sentence. However, that's what they wrote. So I'm just trying to understand, was this an HR read? Was this an administrative read? Was this something else?
Yes.
That got to that
good
sentence?
question. So I wasn't really clear about how this process works. This is coming back from somebody on the PAC. So I don't know if historically HR would do the kind of work, because the PAC is newer, right? They've only been around for a year or so.
Yeah, new name. I think some of the folks that were on the other older version of it maybe retained on that.
Okay.
And to answer Dan's question, I think that there was probably guidance from town administrator to HR, which funneled down to this gentleman on the PAC, which is sort of pushing this in one direction. That's what I feel is happening. There may be something else, but I certainly like our version better.
Yeah, I appreciate what you said, Kevin, earlier about I know they're hustling to kind of get this done for us. But at the same time, like I said, I'm not sure how the process really is supposed to work, but I'm feeling like we're being told that this is what it is. And I'm not wild about that.
Oh, and I think that, we should kindly respond and say, thank you for the suggestions. Unless anyone else on the board has another idea, I'd say thank you for the suggestions. We'd like to move forward with the job description as presented and voted and approved on by the Board of Health.
I would definitely think that's a definite direction to go. The other thing to do, which I do and have seen it multiple other places, and I'm not suggesting we make the changes, but what they said is, for future stuff that we do, we can say, here's the minimum that we accept, here's the preferred that we accept, right? And have that language in the job description to say our minimums are the following. And you list out the minimums like, master's degree, 5 years, 4 years of supervisory capability, those types of things that we, sanitarium, all those kinds of things, right? And then the preferred, you could say, we want to have, 20 years of experience or whatever it is, right? You can say that and say, look, if you meet these minimums, go apply to the job. However, we would prefer it if the candidate had the following experiences, right? So you could write it that way. I'm not saying that we should. I'm just saying in the future, if we have something like that, we could go down that path.
Or language like up to 7 years, not, and more language like at least 7 years, not up to 7 years.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. Because that I would just with that language there, I would say I wouldn't approve this at all. What the new thing coming back from the PAC, I just wouldn't approve it. It doesn't meet the spirit of what we have in our original one. So I'm with
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I'm of the mindset to move forward with the job description we've already approved. Certainly, if there's some minor grammatical, commas or semicolons that need to be put in place that don't affect the messaging and don't affect the language and the spirit of it.
Yeah, so can that obviously, since we don't have a physical, document other than the one we already voted on for tonight's hearing, do we need to potentially pass a motion that says I or with them we can make the grammatical changes and the board's okay with it, or do we not even have to bother with that as long as it's not a content change, would you say?
I think we would be covering all bases if we did have a motion allowing you to make grammatical changes that are,
Okay.
mutually agreed upon in the best interest of the Board of Health. Someone say so moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
All right, motion and a second. Roll call vote. Kevin Davis? You're muted.
Kevin Davis, yes.
Fratelloni?
yes.
3 years.
Dan Kane?
Dan Kane, yes.
Matt Wason?
Oh, yes.
And Kevin Baker votes yes. Well, I hope you have you make some progress on that.
Yeah, to wrap up, I'll get the changes, I'll update it with those approved changes that we just said.
Yep.
No content changes, and get that out to everyone here just to make sure there's no catch or any issue.
Perfect.
That it doesn't stray too far from what we already approved as a real document.
Okay, that sounds great. And one other administrative note I just wanted to make is we have had, and I'll forward this resume around. We've had a young person apply for an internship with the Board of Health, and she's interested in. She's a freshman in college, majoring in public health. And I've spoken to Brenda, and Brenda is able to work with her maybe 3 days a week. I'll pass her resume around, but I think she'll be a great asset, especially in helping us to develop the OpenGov system to get our new fee schedule uploaded, all the items in there classified correctly, so that when we have to flip the switch on July 1st, everything is in there and ready to go turnkey. So she'll probably be giving us 6 hours a day, 3 days a week. She's very smart, computer savvy, very eager to learn. And I think I'll probably pop in once a week and spend a few hours with her too. So,
Is this a paid internship or is this
it's an experiential internship.
fine? Cool.
She goes to the clerk for the checks.
Got it. And are we working with her institution maybe to provide feedback letter to said professors?
Sure, there'll be some criteria where we have to give some feedback and review and, outline some sort of evaluation.
Perfect. So that way she can get credit for it maybe as yeah.
Right. Yes, Mr. Kane.
Now, obviously, it would be asking a bit from Jim. Are there any opportunities? I know it looks like they're interning with ours, but any opportunities perhaps for them to come and shadow and spend some time with the variety of professionals over on your side, whether it's sanitarian or public health nursing or some of those folks to get a real sense of what a health department does, because certainly Brenda worked really, really hard, but it's not the same as interning at a health department of what really happens at a health department. Are those, I know we're asking a lot, but are those any opportunities, or is that something you've done in the past that may be able to offer?
Are you muted?
We haven't really done that in the past just because we haven't had the bandwidth to do it, because you're typically in the field and running around from here to there, and makes it a little bit more challenging to set up something that's worthwhile for somebody. If there was something specific, we might be able to work something out, but.
So maybe that's something we can work, Kevin, if you're going to visit in and check in with the candidate, the intern, to see if there's perhaps opportunities where, if Jim's in the office doing site plans or those kind of things, perhaps that's something they can at least see that part of the process, or
if there's some testing happening,
if they're doing a site
go out
walk or
and
those kind of
see.
things. They're doing an inspection that might be an opportunity to, all right, you know what we're doing. We know it's a big one. We know they're usually pretty reasonable folks wherever it is. We'll, pick some random large grocery store who might be pretty reasonable about the process. That is usually a low stress, just big. That might be an opportunity to take them along for a tag along for an hour. That wouldn't be too much of a extra workload for Jim and his team, but a great opportunity to kind of see behind the curtain of how things work. So no, anything I think you can offer them that they're interested in would be great, Jim, but obviously the job comes first. So anything, we recognize that, but.
So is there any board member updates or comments? Any public comment from anyone in the audience? Raise your hand now, please. All right, no public comment. One other thing I forgot. We were supposed to discuss our standing agenda items and continued discussions. I know, Matt, you had requested this be put on the agenda. Can you give us some detail on that?
Yes. So a while back, I think we mentioned a kind of a wish maybe that we had some more regular things happening at our meetings, just so that it's not just dealing with whatever Title V stuff coming up or whatever, fire is burning, so that we can have some more kind of long looking plans. And so this is what we Kevin and I just brainstormed and threw out to say, well, if we kind of categorized and said there are 5 categories here, let's say there were 6, could we say twice a year, we just make sure that we have a meeting where we obviously still deal with whatever the current things popping up are, but we also make sure at that meeting we do something specific. And part of it would be, I would say, reports. So whether we're using Jim or the Tobacco Alliance or our own Department of Health someday, somebody comes to us and says, hey, Board of Health and Community, here's our latest report on permits or inspections or things that we're seeing in the Title V arena. Same thing, like a report on the food inspections and restaurants and what's going on in food carts. So one piece that's kind of more just standardized reporting, here are the numbers, here's what we're seeing. Another piece that kind of connects into behind the scenes is eventual budgeting, right? Because if one of those reports is starting to look big, every 6 months, then that's a reason to start talking about budgetary changes. And then the other half is more about the I would say the softer stuff of, well, where do we want to go as a board and as a eventual department? So we've had some meetings where we've tried to talk about kind of some long-term goals, and I think it's hard because we all have some ideas about what that might be. And if we segmented those out a little bit more, so we said, okay, well, we know on this meeting on this day, we're going to talk and we're going to brainstorm a little bit about potential town regulations that we want to talk to for about Title V, or we want to talk about our food cart process and how's that going to be. So I just want to get this out here. I can send this out to kind of keep chewing on it and think about, but I was hoping for any just quick input you'd have. Otherwise, take your time, read the email, and you can get back to us and we can continue the conversation. But I know the last one is kind of administrative, and right now I put in there the Department of Health launch. I'm feeling like that's something we should probably have on our agenda at least every other meeting, if not every meeting for now, for the immediate future, just so that we can be talking about what's going on with our Department of Health plan and what are we doing next. Kevin, you were involved in all this too. So
Yeah, thank you very much for typing this up and making it look pretty. I know my chicken scratch doesn't do it justice. I think these are all great topics. I mean, I think that I think certainly, we can categorize. I would like to have, our second meeting of the month sort of front load the month with, the time sensitive, Title V variances, things that Jim needs us to get done because there's a deadline, nominating, animal inspectors, things like that, that has to be done, sort of, front load that on the beginning of the month. And then the second meeting of the month, focus on, things that pop up, but also, bigger picture things that we do need to tend to, like, the community awareness piece, community needs assessment or health assessment, things like that we can report on, like Matt said, twice a year, to say like, well, hey, where are we with this? What are next steps? What action items can we take so that, in 6 months, when we revisit this, we can show some progress. I love that. We are a volunteer board. It's really tough to keep the ball rolling in between our 2-week meetings. But, I've just noticed, things fall off our agendas by no fault of our own, like those model well regulations regarding PFAS that we had on our agenda a couple of weeks ago, but we didn't have a quorum and didn't want to discuss. And now they didn't make it on our agenda this week. And I'm glad I remembered. I don't know if you guys did. I probably would have remembered after our meeting. But so, it's just things like that, that we just have to keep tabs on. And maybe there's a shared Google Doc where we can, run line items and statuses. But yes, I like the idea of just being a little bit more organized and being able to keep tabs on things. And thank you for putting this together, Matt. Any comments from you, Kevin Davis?
No, the thing that struck me was your comments about putting a Google Doc together or something like that. I would really like to see us all transition to some town-owned resources, IT resources.
All right. So we have the OneDrive.
So let me keep chipping away at that, Kevin. We've made some steps about that, but at this point, the town does not give town accounts to anybody other than town employees and select board members. And while a lot of us don't care about that at all, the struggle is that we have a shared drive, but it has just our generic account tied to it effectively. And it appears, I have to work with the IT group. I was hoping we could then share that to each of our individual Board of Health accounts, but I believe that they've disabled that external sharing. So I think the struggle for me is it means we then all use one login to document this. And I'm not wild about that idea. I'm sure that we'd run into a problem where if two of us happen to try to log in at the same time, it would be an issue, or we would find out that, one of the Kevins left it open all day long and nobody else can get in or whatnot. So we're, it's getting better we're making some progress. But I know that they're also doing a big redesign of the website and the back end of the website for all of the town services, and that's taking a lot of the attention right now. So I haven't lost it yet. We're still making baby steps there.
So if I find one person that's not on the select board and is not a town employee that is supported by the IT department, then we can all get account.
You can make the
Right.
case.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, you can let me know if that person exists. I was gonna go back now because we've uncovered this and kind of developing the job description for the health director. Is I'm gonna see what kind of the motivator is. If it's a money thing, that's one thing. But if it's a policy thing, then yes, maybe we can kind of push to have that policy changed.
Yeah. Okay.
Dan Kane, any comments?
No comments.
Gino Fratelloni?
No comment.
All right. Thanks, Matt, for putting that together. Maybe what I'll do is I'll go in that OneDrive in preparation for Kevin Davis finding that one person who's got the town email. And we'll start that shared document in that drive. And when the time comes, we'll just we can put it in the packets, but then we can eventually have everyone access it online. And if there are no other questions, comments, or matters to be raised for public input,
Point of order.
yes.
There was one more item left on our agenda to talk about, and it was the discuss OpenGov training for admin support.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Nope.
So as we move forward and with the intention of launching the Department of Health and hiring the health director, it's very important that Brenda become our administrator, become very well versed in OpenGov and how to utilize all the tools that are at our fingertips in that system with the maximum efficiency. There's a lot of repeat monotonous tasks that one would have to do with the development of this department. And I feel like there are online modules and training that can be accessed by anyone really, to make them a professional and to make them an expert in OpenGov and make the use of the system really effective and streamlined. And I think that if we can agree as a board to, and this might take a vote and it might have to be on our next agenda as a public hearing. I don't know how we go about. I know Brenda's time with the Board of Health is probably already taken up the amount of hours we're allotted, but I would like to give her more hours specifically to be able to sit down and focus and do deep work on training so that when the time comes to have to implement some of these things and get things uploaded to the system and create new items and have all these different things talk to each other, she can just do that. And what might take her, 3 hours to figure out right now, with an hour of deep work training, she can be able to bang out that task in like 10 minutes. So I would like the board to consider, allotting an additional 4 hours a week for our administrator to take such training to become better versed in the software that she's tasked at using. I don't know if anyone has an idea about how to get such a thing, even if we vote on it, how to get that pushed through the pipeline so that the time and the money, is allotted to her for the time she spends. Welcome. Yes, Matt Wason.
I know we've talked briefly with Ed about OpenGov as a system in the past. And since he helps manage that time, could we maybe, you and I or somebody, talk to Ed kind of put a timeline or a plan together with him. I would also like to learn more about OpenGov. I also was going to reach out to kind of some of our locals because I would love to find a town that is already using OpenGov for a couple of the things that we're talking about. Just because I don't know how, I'm not sure how much build time there is, or if it's kind of flip a switch and go, or I don't know enough about the system to understand that yet. So that's kind of what I wanted to do next. But I agree, OpenGov is our future, and the sooner we can kind of figure out where that's going to go and what it's going to look like, and can we use
Best
our
practices.
intern to do that?
Yep.
Awesome.
Right. So maybe what we'll do is Matt and I will dig into the logistics on some of that stuff, and then we'll likely bring it up at our next meeting as a public hearing. And if we have to take a vote, we'll take a vote. And if everybody's on board, we'll move forward with it. Okay, so are there any other comments, updates, or public input? If not, all we need is a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
I'll second that motion to adjourn. Roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis, yes.
Gino Fratelloni,
yes.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Matt Weason,
Matt Wason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. Thank you, Jim.